Welcome to Q&A practice. Let's start with some warm-up, and we'll start with defense attorney. Ready? Here we go. And have you received training as relates to individuals under the influence of CNS stimulants or stimulants? Yes, I have. And have you received training as to what some of the predominant signs are of those drugs? Yes, I have. Can you give me an example of one or two? Fluttering eyelids, dry mouth, whiteness around the lips, unnatural responses with the pupils. Thank you. And how about training as relates to individuals under the influence of depressants? Have you received training? I have received training, but I wouldn't call myself an expert in that area, sir. And that's fair. Have you received training as to what are some predominant symptoms of people under the influence of depressants? Objection. Foundation overruled. Have you received training on it? Some training, yes, sir. Again, would not consider myself an expert to testify in regards to that. Have you received training that somebody under the influence of alcohol is a depressant? Yes, I have. Thank you. Have you become personal friends with Gary Black since joining Layton Police Department? Yes, sir. Have you hung out with him socially? Yes, I have. Do you feel that you can give honest testimony here today regarding your interaction with Gary Black during the course of your employment with Layton Police Department? Yes, I will. Would you lie for him? No, I would not. During the course of your on-duty contacts with Gary Black, have you ever observed him to be under the influence of any kind of stimulants? No, sir. Ever appeared to come to work high? No, sir. During the course of your work with Gary Black, did you ever see him pass out controlled substances to anybody? No, sir. Just one moment. Thank you, officer. Nothing further at this time. Any questions? I think I could be done in 3 minutes, Your Honor. Pardon? All right. Whatever the court wants. Go ahead. How are you, officer? Fine, thank you. You indicated that Gary Black was your training officer. Yes, he was. And friend? Yes, sir. Okay. And as your training officer, how would you describe him? Would you describe him? Well, you wouldn't describe him as a strict training officer, right? He was strict. Very strict. Isn't that true? Yes, sir. In fact, he's so strict, he wouldn't allow someone who's violating the laws to get away with it, right? That's right. He would make arrests when needed, right? That is right. For instance, if he found someone with a bunch of drug items, he wouldn't allow someone to get away with that, would he? No, sir. He would make that arrest, right? Yes, he would. If someone was high on drugs, Black was a strict officer, he wouldn't just walk away from that, would he? No, sir. He would do something about it, right? Yes. And when he would, have you, as a trainee, did you write reports? Yes, I did. Okay, and after you wrote the reports, he would review them, right? Most of them, yes, sir. When he did review them, he was strict in his reviews as well. Isn't that true? Yes. When you would leave something out, sir, he would make sure you put it back in, right? That's right. In fact, there were instances with you where you would leave stuff out and he would correct it for you or tell you to include it, right? That is right. Such as violations of the law, he wouldn't leave something like that out, would he? In my reports, yes. I'm sorry. He wouldn't let you leave that out of your report if you witnessed it. That's true. Nothing further, Your Honor. Additional questions on behalf of defense. Do you have any additional questions? Yes, Your Honor, but I don't know if we can get it done in the allotted time. We're not going to. All right, sir, I'm going to have to order you back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Can you be here then? Yes, sir. You're ordered to return here at 10 a.m., ladies and gentlemen. We're about to break for the evening. Remember my prior admonition to you not to form or express any opinions on this case nor discuss any issue related to it until such time as it is finally submitted to your deliberations. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Some more Q&A practice. And we will start with defense attorney. Ready? Here we go. Good morning, officer. Good morning, sir. Do you remember you were asked a number of questions by Mr. North? Yes. You talked about, is that a yes? Yes, sir. Sorry. You talked about Gary Black being a judicious officer, hard-working officer. That's right. In the course of your working with Gary Black, did you ever see him display compassion to individuals you might classify as defendants or accused individuals? Yes, I did. Objection. Objection. Relevance overruled. Yes, I did. Did you ever see him exercise goodwill? Yes, I did. Was he fair? He was very fair. Did you see him mistreat individuals that you might classify as accused or defendants? No. During the course of your work, do you arrest everybody that comes across your path who has committed misdemeanors? No, sir. Do you arrest everybody who is under the influence of controlled substances? No, sir. Do you arrest everybody who is in possession of drug items? No, sir. Why is that? We are given a discretion in our job, and under certain circumstances, situations like that may arise. Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor. All right, additional cross-examination. Very briefly, prior to testifying just a second ago, officer, did you talk to the defense investigator? Good morning. Greeted him with a good morning. Nothing pertaining to the case at hand. Do you remember testifying yesterday that Gary Black was a strict officer? Yes, sir. I asked you the exact question. He wouldn't let someone go if he saw they were high on drugs. Do you remember me asking you that question? Yes, sir. What was your response yesterday? My answer was no, he would not. Is that still your response? Yes, it is, considering every person he would let go. No, but as I explained to this gentleman, there are certain circumstances that would arise out in the field where somebody would be let go, sir. Sir, officer, yesterday when you testified, when I asked you that question, if he would let someone go that was high, your response was no, right? That is right, sir. You didn't say anything about the word that you used today, discretion. True, that is true. You never mentioned that at all yesterday. I did not mention anything at all about discretion. No, sir. And Gary Black, do you look up to him, sir? Yes, I do. Okay, and you in fact testified yesterday that he is not just a training officer to you at one point, right? That is right. In fact, he was also a friend of yours. True, that is true. Okay, you also testified today, though, that, or yesterday, that you would not lie for him. Is that right? No, sir, I would not. Okay, thank you. And you never saw Gary Black find a bunch of drug items and just leave it there, right? No, I did not. That wouldn't be an officer that's strict, right? Not as my FTO. That would not happen, sir. I just want to clear something up. Yesterday you testified defense counsel was asking you some questions about your ability to, or your training in identifying people that are under the influence. Do you recall that line of questioning? Yes, I do. You said that you received some training that was academy training, right? Objection, beyond the scope. I'm going to ask to reopen. Sustained and granted. Thank you. That was academy training. Is that right, sir? That is right. That is training that every officer that goes through the force receives. That is right, sir. You would agree with me that that is known as basic training. Yes, okay, they actually have advanced training courses, right? They do. What do you know the term DRE? I am not a DRE, a drug recognition expert. They actually have those. Isn't that true? That is true. In fact, there are people on the force that are drug recognition experts, right? Yes, sir, and those are people that actually go through special courses so that they can become experts in identifying when someone's under the influence. That is true. You never received that training, is that right? I never attended that training, sir. Okay, all right, nothing further. Thank you. Additional questions on behalf of the defense. Officer, have you made arrests for people under the influence of alcohol for driving? Objection, relevance, overruled. Yes, I have. Do you have to be a DRE to do that? No, sir. Have you ever arrested anybody you suspected of being under the influence of controlled substances while driving? Yes, I have. Do you have to be a DRE to do that? No, sir. Yesterday, Internal Affairs was in the audience when you testified. Do you remember that? Yes, I do. Yesterday, did you feel like you were on trial during Mr. North's examination of you? No, sir. And when you talk about Gary Black being a strict officer, do you mean that also in the context of him being a training officer? That is how I mean that, sir. Have you given honest testimony to us this morning? Absolutely. Thank you. Additional questions? Nothing further. Thank you, officer. May this witness be excused, or does he need to be subject to recall? He can be excused by the defense. Excused. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. You're excused at this time. May I call my next witness? You may. The defense calls Richard Levy. You do solemnly state that the evidence you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes. Please be seated, sir. Sir, speaking clearly into the microphone, could you please state and spell your full name for the record? Richard Levy, Richardlevey. Good morning, Mr. Levy. Good morning. Have you testified in a courtroom before? Yes. A number of times? Yes. You're familiar with the rules for answering questions in court? Yes, sir. Mr. Hill, you may inquire. Thank you. Good morning, officer. Good morning, sir. How are you so employed today? I'm employed by the City of Layton as a police officer. How long have you been employed by the City of Layton? Since June of 2002. And have you worked for any other police departments prior to Layton Police? Yes. And what agency or agencies? The Highway Patrol. And how long were you with Highway Patrol? 1998 to 2002. So you made the switch. I did. During the course of your employment while working with the Layton Police Department, did you have occasion to ever work with Gary Black? Yes. And during what periods of time did you have an opportunity to work with or around Gary Black? I'm sorry, sir, I didn't hear that. During what periods of time did you have a chance to work with and around Gary Black? You're talking about dates. And we will stop there. That will conclude our Q&A practice.